echoes don't shout. They begin quiet, buried deep, waiting for rain. You might not even notice them at first. But if you wait and hope and believe, you'll see how even the smallest seed can break through stone and change a life. My name is Tosia Nimbali, Teeko-ha-Neem Bali. And this is the story of the year I planted tomorrow, the year I learned what it means to hope for a harvest I might never see, the year I learned what it means to hope for a harvest I might never see. Before everything started, I never thought much about Bongani Sims. He lived 2 streets over, in a run-down blue house with paint peeling like bark after a hard frost. He was always late to school, shoes too small, eyes ringed with tired shadows. Most days he kept to himself, sketching pictures of trees and rivers in the margins of his notebooks. Rumor was his dad got laid off the year before. People in town whispered, but never too loudly. It wasn't until the spring, when I caught him watching Ayana and me dig in our tiny garden, that I saw how hungry his hope was. Quiet, desperate, patient. He didn't ask to join, but he stood at the fence, hands in his pockets, staring at the earth like he could will something to grow just by wanting it enough. There was a time before drought, before fear, when our backyard was a tangle of sunflowers and laughter, when Dad would lift me high and point to the green horizon. See that, Tosia? The land remembers who tends it. I believed him once. That spring, the river still ran cold and strong. Ayana, just a toddler, then chased grasshoppers through clover, her giggles rising like birdsong. We thought the seasons would never change, but change came, slow at first, like a shadow stretching at sunset. One Friday afternoon, after school, I found Bongani in the empty lot, squatting low behind the fence. He looked up, embarrassed. I wasn't going to steal anything, he muttered. I just like how quiet it is here. He traced a shape in the dust with a stick, what I recognized as a maple leaf, delicate and real. I used to have a treehouse, he said, not looking up. Before we lost the old place, there was so much he didn't say, but I understood. I offered him a packet of seeds from Mr. Kikuyu, and that's how our friendship started, without fanfare. Just the honest sharing of small hopes. I was 15 when our town shrank to a whisper. Drought stole the river, fields turned to dust, and hope dried up in the corners of our hearts. My dad stopped singing in the mornings. My little sister, Ayana, lined up her stuffed animals and prayed for rain. My mom clipped coupons and looked out the window as if the sky might answer her. Every week the church prayed. But all I saw was hard ground, empty barns, and neighbors leaving for places with more promise than this dying patch of earth. April 14. The sky looks empty. The old tree in the yard lost 3 more leaves. Mom says not to worry. Ayana says her prayers will make the clouds come. Dad hasn't laughed since last Sunday. Sometimes I wish hope could fall from the sky, like rain. There was a lot at the edge of town, half wild, ringed with weeds and broken bottles. It had been for sale for years, but nobody wanted it. Old Mrs. Okoye called it cursed. kids called it the place where hope goes to die. But sometimes, on my way home from school, I'd stop at the chain link fence, imagining wildflowers and apple trees, a garden where anyone could come and eat. As spring pushed through the last of winter's grey, Bongani started showing up at the lot after school. He always checked to make sure nobody was watching, then ducked in through a gap in the fence. We worked in silence, me digging, him weeding, sometimes sharing a cracked water bottle. Or Bongani told me his mom was picking up extra shifts at the gas station. I tried to help, but it's like the more I do, the more there is to worry about. I nodded, because I knew that feeling of carrying a burden that doesn't get lighter just because you share it. Mr. Kikuyu was my biology teacher. He wore old sweaters and smelled like coffee and soil. People said he'd been a scientist in the city before moving here. He saw me staring at the empty lot one afternoon and handed me a packet of seeds. "Not much to look at," he said, "but if you plant them, who knows?" He never pressed. He just smiled, as if he already saw a forest where I saw only waste. Sometimes I'd linger in Mr. Kikuyu's classroom after the bell, pretending to study the posters of plant cells and weather cycles. He'd water the African violets on his windowsill and hum old hymns. "Once," he said, "faith is like a seed. You bury it, you wait, and you trust. Even when I'm not sure it's there." I pocketed the seeds, not quite ready to believe. Bongani invited me over once for dinner. His mom served macaroni with the last of the summer, tomatoes, and his little brother, Max, raced toy cars through the spilled breadcrumbs. There were cracks in the ceiling and the floor creaked with every step, but there was laughter, real, shaky, unguarded. His mom pressed a jar of pickled beets into my hand as I left. "Something from our last harvest," she said. "It tasted like hope that refuses to die." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the back porch, the packet of seeds in my palm. Ayana joined me, wrapped in a thin blanket, her voice a whisper. "Do you think if we plant something, God will help it grow?" I wanted to say yes, but I was tired. Tired of hope, tired of trying. But she pressed the seeds into my hand and smiled. "Let's do it anyway," she said. Ayana started tying pieces of string and old ribbons to the backyard maple. She called it her prayer tree, and every morning she'd whisper new requests, rain, courage. For Dad, new shoes for me, a friend for Mrs. Okoye. Neighbors would sometimes pause at the fence and smile at the tree, its branches bright with hopes fluttering in the wind. We started small, digging up a patch of earth behind our trailer, making a mess, getting mud in our shoes. Ayana wrote prayers on popsicle sticks and stuck them in the rows. Mr. Kikuyu donated more seeds. Mum let us use old milk jugs for watering cans. It was hard work, but something in the doing felt like prayer. Hands deep in the dirt, sweat and laughter mixing with hope. We watched for green shoots, counted clouds, waited for the impossible. As word spread about the garden, Bongani brought Max and a few neighborhood kids. They brought packets of carrot seeds, handfuls of beans, a couple of marigold starters from a church festival. "Let's plant something for everyone," Max announced. And for a while, The empty lot buzzed with more life than it had seen in years. Bongani grinned as Max chased Ayana with a worm, and the grown-ups who passed by shook their heads in disbelief. Layla was new in town. Her family had lost their farm upstate. She wore hand-me-down boots and barely spoke above a whisper. She noticed our garden at school and asked to help. Her mom worked nights. Her dad was gone. Layla carried her grief quietly, but in the dirt, her smile came alive. One afternoon, I found her planting wildflower seeds in the empty lot, her hands shaking. "Why bother?" I asked. She looked up, eyes shining. "My grandma said flowers are hope you can see." Layla, Ayana, and I started a tiny club, calling ourselves the Gardeners of Tomorrow. We handed out extra seeds at school and taught kids how to sprout beans in old yogurt cups. For every sprout that grew, we took a picture and taped it to the fence around the lot. A living mosaic of hope. That spring, the first shoots pushed through. We cheered for every leaf. Neighbors started noticing. A retired farmer donated compost. The church ladies brought leftover tomato plants. Kids left stones painted with verses by our gate. Layla organized a Saturday planting party. People came old, young, quiet, bold. We dug, we planted, we shared sandwiches and lemonade. The lot wasn't beautiful yet, but it was no longer empty. Something new had started. Bongani's mom started coming to the garden on weekends, offering extra hands and stories about the fields where she grew up. She swapped recipes with Ayana, brought lemonade for all the kids. With every new seed, every weed pulled, Bongani's family found laughter again. June 3 ate our first corn. Ayana did a happy dance. Mum cried and hugged us both. Layla found a snail and named it Moses. I feel hope growing, slow but steady. Mr. Kikuyu says it takes time, but I see green everywhere now. Summer was hard. Weeks without rain, sun beating down. We hauled water by hand, Ayana singing to the seedlings. Some plants withered. We tried not to cry, reminding us. Some seeds sleep a long time before they wake. Don't give up. One scorching afternoon, I found Bongani sitting by the fence, staring at a row of wilted tomato plants. "I don't get it," he muttered. "We did everything right. Why do some things die anyway?" I didn't have an answer. We sat in the shade, silent, letting the ache pass between us like wind through tall grass. Eventually, Ayana came by with popsicles. We shared them, and for a moment, that was enough. Mrs. Okoye, who'd once called the lot cursed, began leaving apples from her tree on our fence post. One evening, she surprised us with a packet of wild daisy seeds. "My mother used to say daisies bloom where prayers are answered," she said, voice soft as a blessing. Ayana hugged her tight. Even grown-ups, I learned, can find hope again. Mrs. Okoye told us one afternoon, "When I was a girl, my father lost everything. We survived by the tomatoes my mother planted in the alley behind our flat. Every summer I see red fruit. I remember. Don't give up on tomorrow, even when today looks empty." Autumn came. The garden blazed with color, not perfect, but alive. Tomatoes, corn, beans, wildflowers, sunflowers, tall as giants. We shared what we had. Layla's mom baked bread with our herbs. The church held a harvest table dinner for everyone, no questions asked. For one evening, our town felt full, the lot buzzing with laughter and stories. Mr. Kikuyu sat in the shade, smiling as Ayana handed out seeds for next year. During the harvest table dinner, Bongani stood on a crate and spoke for the first time in front of everyone. My family came here with nothing but a few seeds in a jar. Now, thanks to all of you, I know we belong. Next year, I'll plant even more. Everyone cheered. Even Mrs. Okoye wiped a tear. I carried a basket of tomatoes to Mrs. Okoye, who smiled and pressed a daisy into my palm. I told you, miracles take root in the unlikeliest places. Layla laughed, passing out slices of her mum's herb bread. People from all over the neighborhood, kids, elders, even new families ate together at picnic tables under string lights. Layla's mum got a job at the local store. She and her mum moved out of the shelter into a little house near our garden. Layla told me, "This place gave us roots again." We made a pact. Every spring, we'd plant something new together no matter what. The next spring, Bongani and I drew up plans for an orchard, apples, pears, plums. We mapped it all out, dreaming big. Ayana painted signs. Layla saved marigold seeds for the border. Hope was everywhere tucked into the soil, written on every hand-painted stake. People started gathering more seeds. More plots were planted. More dreams. Hope, like seeds, waited under the surface. Ayana saved every seed she could find, careful and patient, already planning what to plant next. I realized the harvest wasn't just food. It was second chances, new friends, the slow miracle of believing in what you can't see. If you feel like the world around you is dried up, if your hope is buried deep, if your dreams seem too small to matter, plant anyway, love anyway. Wait and watch for the miracle, because sometimes the smallest seed can crack open the hardest ground and fill a whole town with tomorrow.